Hey guys, today I'm filming a chit chat get ready with me using all of the items from my current Project 10 Pan Summer Edition. If you guys have not seen my intro, I will have that linked up above, and very soon I should have my first update. I did want to let you know I am filming this video a couple weeks in advance because I didn't really want to spoil any of the progress, and also because I like to film these videos at the very beginning of the project when I haven't finished anything off yet. I will be using everything from my Project Pan, but of course I will have to pull in other products as well, and this has been mostly my go-to routine for the summer so far. So for primer, I have a combination. I start with the Ordinary High Adherence Silicone Primer. I squeezed out some into this little sample jar so it fits in my little monthly makeup basket area, and this is actually a really nice simple primer, and I am just going to apply this on my cheeks. Also, I went to link this in a video the other day, and the Ordinary products were being sold at Sephora. They're not on the Sephora website anymore. Like, the entire brand isn't. And I'm wondering if it's because of all of the drama that's been happening recently with the brand owners. And it really doesn't make sense otherwise why Sephora would get rid of the Ordinary, because I'm pretty sure that they were selling a lot of their products, but of course, I am not sure, a little conspiracy there. So the other primer I'm using is something that is in my Project Pan. This is the Boscia Perfecting White Charcoal Mattifying Treatment Primer. And because this is a matte primer, I don't want to put it all over my face, which is why I go with the Ordinary on my cheeks. Also, this primer, because it is a mattifying primer, can tend to ball up on my skin a little bit, which is why I like doing the Ordinary first, and then I will go in with this. And I basically just apply this throughout my T-zone. So I'll take about this much, rub it together between my fingers, and I start by patting it. These kind of primers, some people say, are best to pat into the skin instead of sweeping. With this one, I don't really think it matters. With the Makeup Forever matte primer and the Becca matte primer, I think that's how you need to apply them. But honestly, with this one, I don't think it matters much. But for today, I'm just patting it into my skin. But I do think it's good to warm it up between your hands first. Then we have my pore filling primer, which is the Dr. Brandt Pores No More. I'm just going to apply this into my large pores, and this is a really nice thin primer, but it actually does a great job for pores. So what I like to do is press it into my pores and then sweep towards the outside of my face. My skin is not looking that good recently. I have quite a few breakouts. This one just popped up overnight. For foundation, there hasn't really been one specific combo that I'm sticking to this summer. I'm wanting to use all of the foundations in my collection, but a classic go-to for me would be the Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation in 1W1 Bone, mixed with a little bit of the Hard Candy Glamoflague Foundation in Porcelain. Since we got back from our cruise, I did get a tiny bit of color, so I don't need as much of this, so I'm trying to get the perfect ratio. And I'm going to mix them on the back of this Cosmo Cube mixing palette. You can buy this from Sephora. Super affordable. Usually I forget to bring it in with me when I film these videos, but I remembered today. So I just did a full pump of Estee Lauder, and then not even half a pump of the Hard Candy, and I'm just going to mix it together and apply it on one side of my face. And then I'm going to take my damp Real Techniques beauty sponge and blend it out. And this just blends the product so quickly and easily. I love my Real Techniques sponge. So now my foundation is done. I applied one layer overall and another layer on my cheeks. And this is a step I've been doing recently, so I figured I would do it today to show you. And I have been using the ColourPop No Filter Concealer in the shade Light 10 on my cheeks to give even more coverage. This does oxidize to be too dark, so I mix in a little bit of the ColourPop White Concealer. And recently I've actually been doing this step before foundation, and that's been working really well. I forgot to do that today, so I'm just going to put it over top, which also works, but I like putting this on my cheeks first, and then I can just do one layer of foundation overall instead of trying to build up on my cheeks, and this works super well. So what I do is usually 3 stripes on each cheek, and then I will go in between the stripes with just a little bit of the white, and then I'll just take my sponge, try to mush them together and blend it out onto my skin. And this just gives such good coverage, and it's such an easy to blend concealer. I wish it came with more product, but I really love this. I also really like the ColourPop concealer for blemishes, and I've got one here and here, so I will show you my routine for that. So putting it right there, and also right here, and then I take just a dab of white, and then I'm going to let that sit for a little bit and apply my under eye corrector. So for under eye corrector, this is another thing in my project pan. It is the NYX Sculpt and Highlight Duo in the Ivory Taupe shade. I'm just using the Ivory. It is nice and light, but it is pretty peachy tone on me, which is why I'm using it as a corrector. So I am just taking it right under the eye and into the inner corner where I have some darkness. And the formula of the NYX concealer is actually really nice. I just wish they had better shade, and I don't like the contour part, but this highlight product is actually pretty good. Then I'm taking the pointed side of my Real Technique sponge to blend it out. And this does a really nice job of brightening and correcting since I don't have a ton of darkness under my eye. I'm not sure if you guys noticed at the beginning of the video when I didn't have any of my makeup on, but I'm getting some melasma on the top of my cheeks. So if you guys have any recommendations of good concealers or correctors to cover melasma, please let me know in the comments. So now I'm going to go blend out my blemish concealer using this brush from RC Cosmetics. It is an angled flat top kabuki. It is supposed to be a dupe for the Sigma brushes, but I like this one because it isn't quite as dense. And then I'm just going to pat over top. I like using this brush instead of my sponge because when I use the sponge, it shears it out a bit, and I'm wanting a lot of coverage on my blemishes. So I'm just going on and around to help blend it into my foundation so it isn't so noticeable. And those areas are a little light. Once I put on my face powder, you won't be able to tell. So then we've got under eye concealer. I am using the Tarte Shape Tape in the shade Fair. And I think I said this in another video, but is it just me, or does this not look as light as it used to? Before, I could not use it on its own because it looked basically white. And now I don't think it looks that pale. It's still very fair, but I don't know. I feel like it's a little darker than it used to be. And I'm also taking this down the center of my face to highlight. And then for the center of my face, I take the angled side of the beauty sponge, the same side where I applied my foundation. And I try not to get too crazy with this step, but I do think it's necessary to put some lighter concealer in the center of your face to balance out what's happening under your eye. And for my under eye concealer, as you can see, I did do that upside down triangle, but I didn't fill it in because this is so full coverage, that's wasting product, and it's gonna make it cake and feel and look heavy under the eye. So I just do this, and then I blend on top, and then move up towards my lower lash line. And I found that's the best way to work with this product. So now to set my under eye concealer, I'm using the Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder. And I'm just putting some of this into the cap. And then taking the Real Techniques Miracle Mini Eraser Sponge. This isn't necessary, but I actually love this sponge. It's very inexpensive. And I am gonna use the angled side to pick up some of this powder and press it under my eyes. I wish I didn't love this powder so much, but I absolutely do. And now I will show you what I do for my forehead wrinkles. So usually by this stage of my makeup application, I've made quite a few facial expressions, scrunched up my forehead, and then I've got the product settling in my wrinkles. So what I take is the MAC Studio Finish Concealer in NC15, and I use this little Real Techniques shading brush. Just pick up some of the product, and I'm going to pat it right over the wrinkle and then blend over the entire line, which really helps the concealer to get right in there. And I'm not picking up too much product, or else it would make it look more cakey and creasy. Then taking my Real Technique sponge, the angled side I use for foundation, I just pat over the top to help it sink into the skin a little nicer. Now we're ready for the loose face powder. You guys know I always have a very complicated, product heavy face routine. So now we're going to be moving on to a Project Pan item to set my face. It is the Too Faced Peach Perfect Setting Powder. This powder does oxidize on me, so I mixed it in with a bit of the Maybelline Fit Me loose powder in the shade Fair to help tone the color a bit, and that has been working really well, and these two formulas work quite nicely together. I've really been loving this combo. I love this Too Faced powder in general, and I like applying it with a damp beauty sponge, so I'm going to use the back side of this that I haven't used for cream products, picking up some of the powder and just pressing it into my skin. I'm not trying to bake, I'm just trying to set my skin. A brush is nice for this as well. More of a dense Kabuki style brush I like using with loose powder to set my face, but I just enjoy a sponge even more. And it's definitely one of the best loose powders I've ever used. I'm really happy I put it in this project because it's made me love it so much more, especially because I have found this combination to make the color work for me. As I'm talking, several bits of this are going into my mouth. It is rather tasty, I have to say. So now for the cheek products, I'm using my go-to bronzer and contour. This will be my bronzer, the Milani Matte Baked Bronzer in the shade Sunset. It's a really nice warm tone powder, and I'm gonna be applying it with my e.l.f. stippling brush, which I mentioned before that I love using a stippling brush for bronzer because I am so fair. It just deposits the perfect amount of color. I also really love warm bronzers, especially in the summer, and because I do have more of a warm skin tone, I think I can get away with it. Maybe it looks terrible, but I love the way it looks. And these bronzers are amazing. I'm so upset they were limited edition. Milani needs to bring these back and make them permanent because all the rest of their bronzers have shimmer. Now I'm going to do the unthinkable and contour with a warm bronzer. This is the Milani Matte Baked Bronzer in Sienna. It's just a little bit darker. This is warm tone, but I think it looks beautiful as a contour. And I'm going to apply it with the Morphe M523 brush, literally tapping it twice, tapping off the excess because this is quite pigmented. And just moving back and forth and feathering up. And the same on the other side, of course. So next for blush, this is a sneak peek for my first update. I told you guys in the intro for the Anastasia eyeshadow in China Rose, I would use it as an eyeshadow and as a blush, but I decided I wanted to just use it as a blush, but it was way too difficult to use in that palette. It was also beside a brown and a black shadow, so a couple times I did get my brush in the black and put it on my face accidentally. So for the blush, I decided to repress all of the products into a different container, so this is what it looks like. I thought I was going to have the whole pan completely filled up, but I don't. But it actually makes me really happy to use this as a blush. It's a little bit intense. It's a really beautiful peachy pink with a golden shimmer like NARS Orgasm, but it has a bit more intensity because it's a shadow. So my favorite brush for really intense blushes is the Sigma F15 Duo Fiber Blush Brush. So we're just gonna pick up some of this product and dust it on the back of my cheeks. I'm really so much happier using this as a blush. It's a pretty shadow, but I'm excited to try to use up a blush, but I think it will definitely be doable considering how much appears to be in the pan. I think I can finish this in 3 months, and it's an easy color to wear on its own, or I can use a little bit of this on top of any other blush because all the other blushes I use in the summer are very similar tones to this. And the last thing we have for face would be highlighter. This is something for my Project Pan. It is the Becca Shimmering Skin Perfector in the shade Opal. In my intro, you know that mine was broken and I was trying to use it, and I used quite a bit, but I was afraid of losing chunks and wasting products, so I decided to go ahead and repress it. And since I've done that, it actually isn't super powdery, which is what I was afraid of, but it's not. So now I'm wondering, oh my gosh, how long is it going to take me to hit pan? But it's much easier to use this way. So I'm going to be applying it with the Morphe M501 brush. So I am just going to apply a heavy dose of this on the top of my cheekbones. And I'm not sure if you can tell, there is a bit of reflection, but this shade is also a bit dark for me. So what I've been doing is using that as a base and then going over top with the Anastasia Amrezy highlighter, which is a very nice light white gold kind of color. It is the lightest gold highlighter I've ever seen. It works so well for my skin tone. So I am just gonna take my brush, and this is a gelée formula, so you really have to work with this. So I run back and forth to pick up the product on the brush, and then I'll just put it right over top of Opal, and that gives a really, really beautiful effect. So that is the face all complete. I am gonna zoom you guys in for eyes and brows. So as you can see, I've already done one brow and eye off camera, and accidentally I started to do this brow, so I tried to wipe it off. For the summer, I've been doing a very simplified brow routine, so I figured I would share it with you guys. So I start by taking my Student Cashhook spoolie, any spoolie can do, to just comb out my brow hairs. Then I take the NYX Eyebrow Shaper Wax Pencil and just run right over top. I don't press down too hard because I don't want a ton of product glooped on there, just enough to coat the hairs. Then I take this little Flirt eyebrow comb. Real Techniques has something similar to this, but I think it's metal. And I just comb through to make sure I don't have any clumps. Then I'm taking my MAC eyeshadow in Omega and a Sigma E75 angled brow brush. So I just pick up a little at a time, and I start by underlining my brow, and literally I'm just like tapping like this. Then doing the tail, filling that in, and then I line the top. Then here comes the hard part, which is the front. And forgive me if these are uneven. Like I said, I usually go back and forth between my two brows, and I usually have to go in with some of that Studio Finish concealer to try to even them out. And taking a little more and working it through the center of my brow. Luckily for me, I have a lot of brow hair, so I can get away with just using powder like this. And because I'm using the wax pencil, the brow powder stands out so much more. And the brows aren't even, and this one goes down a little bit too much, so I am gonna take the MAC Studio Finish Concealer in NC15 and this e.l.f. Professional Eyeliner brush. It's just from their $1 brush range. And I am going to go right underneath my brow, taking a little bit like that, and then blending it in with my finger. And doing the same on the other brow. And this is something that I can spend a lot of time doing to try to even them out. Then taking my spoolie again to work through that product, and then finishing it off with the NYX Tinted Brow Mascara in Blonde. I'm just gonna work this through the brows, and I love this because it draws attention to all of my brow hairs to make them look a little more natural. So then for the eyes, for primer, I'm using my Milani eyeshadow primer. Just taking a little bit of this and applying it on my lid from lash line to brow bone. Now I'm going to set my eye primer. I have two different shadows and two different brushes because I am that high maintenance with my makeup. To set the primer under my brow bone, I'm going to be using Matte Malloy, which is a matte white from the Balm Meat Matte Nude palette, and I'm going to apply that under my brow with the Wet n Wild Large Shader brush. And I just repressed this shadow last night, and I had to mix in a bit of a white powder because I had too much liquid in here. And I'm just packing this right under the brow. And then using a product from my project pan. This is from the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, taking the shade Tempura, and I am going to apply this in my crease with the Wet n Wild. This is either the blending or the crease brush. And unfortunately, this shade has a little bit of a sheen to it, which I don't like, but it works fine to set my primer. So I just put a decent amount of this into my crease to make sure it is no longer sticky and it's completely set, but I do not put this on my lid. I like to leave the lid sticky because I will be going in with a cream base. Taking some more Project Pan shadows, I'll be going in with Burnt Orange from the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, using this as my transition color applied with the Morphe R38 brush. This is a really pigmented color, so I just pick up a little bit, tap off the excess, and then windshield wiper motions back and forth, and then small little circular motions to really buff this out. So then we're going to do my lid color, and I'm starting with a base. This is the Milani Shadow Eyes Pencil in Golden Bronze. It was limited edition, but the Balm Batter Up eyeshadow stick in the shade Curveball is similar enough, or the Laura Mercier Rose Gold. Either of those could work as a really great base for this shadow. I don't usually use bases with ColourPop Super Shocks, but because mine is dried out, it is performing more like a powder shadow, and I want to make sure the pigment sticks to my eye instead of crumbling off. So I'm just applying this all over my lid. So taking the ColourPop Super Shock in the shade Get Lucky, which is just a beautiful gold, I'm gonna pack it on my lid with a little sponge tip applicator. I do one layer with the sponge tip applicator right now, and then once I finish the rest of my eye look, I will take one layer with my finger to really re-intensify the color. I love using the sponge because it gives me a lot of precision when I'm applying this that my finger doesn't on its own. So we are just going to press this on right over top of the cream base. And this works so well. I'm pretty sure it was Coffee Break with Danny that I had first heard this tip from. So definitely credit to her, and it works really well, especially when you're trying to pan these shadows and they've started to dry out. Going back into the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette, I'm taking Raw Sienna with my Morphe R39 brush, and I'm applying it in my outer corner. And for the first couple weeks of this month, I was using China Rose on my lid, and with these shades, they didn't look warm enough and they look kind of odd, but they pair so nicely with this gold and do pull more of their true color. So I like this color combo so much better. These are very pigmented, so I don't need a ton. I'm thinking it might take me till the very end of the project before I hit pan on them, if I even do. So I'm just focusing this on the outer corner and the outer part of my crease, and then working towards the inner part of my eye, and then taking the side of my brush, whatever's left, fading it up towards the brow bone. I love these two shadows so much. I know Burnt Orange is a single, but I really wish Raw Sienna was as well, because this is a shade that I would definitely like to repurchase if I ever used it up. So now I'm going to take Get Lucky again on my finger to re-intensify the pigment. How pretty does this look on my finger? So now we're just going to press it onto the lid, and like this shade is so intense. It is an ultra metallic finish, which is my favorite. Going back in with Tempera from the Modern Renaissance palette and my Sigma E45 small tapered blending brush, I am going to get a little bit of this to use it to clean up my shadow, and I basically just go on the outer corner of my eye to sharpen this up, because with all of my blending it can get a little bit messy, and because this is a matte cream that matches my skin tone, it is a really nice color for this. I would prefer it not to be shimmery, but you know, we do what we can here. So that is the eye look all complete. I'm just going to apply some mascara. I'm choosing not to do eyeliner, but you definitely could. I'm going to do the mascara off camera, but I'll show you what I'm using. This is the Jesse's Girl Dyla Lash Mascara, which is more of a wet formula, and it is a plastic bristle brush. And I'm also using the IT Cosmetics Superhero Mascara, which is a dry formula and a natural bristle brush. So these two actually work pretty well together. So here is the makeup look all complete. For my mascaras, I actually apply the IT Cosmetics first, and then I go over top with the Jesse's Girl to try to space out my lashes a little bit. And I actually really am enjoying this combination. For lips, I do have two lip products in this project, and this is the MAC Patent Polished Lip Pencil in the shade Go For Girly. I've already applied this. I think it looks absolutely beautiful with this makeup look. So guys, that was my very long chit chat get ready with me using all of my summer project pan items. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I really enjoyed doing one of these for every one of my projects. And if you guys are doing a project pan currently, I would love to know in the comments down below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.